What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show, and today we're keeping it nice and informal. We're just having a fun chat, Whitney and I. This is actually inspired by one of those polls that I put out. I know, I said that I wasn't secretly monitoring you all, but spoiler alert, I am. I'm monitoring you at all times. Much like Santa Claus, I know when you're being naughty and when you're being nice. And we today are talking about when it's time to upgrade your motorcycle. This was something that I heard a lot of people saying, was that they had gotten a motorcycle, they had started on it, and they'd kept it for a long time. They're still on their starter bike. A lot of guys in the comments were like, where's that option? And I feel ya. And so today we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about how to know whether or not you should upgrade your motorcycle. And this is perfectly pertinent for Whitney, because you were purging your garage and getting ready to buy some stuff. And
yeah, to me the answer's simple. I won't divulge at the moment, but simple. It's real simple. I've upgraded many bikes too, and so have you.
Yeah,
we're always wheeling and dealing motorcycles.
We have been through many motorcycles, and today we're going to give you our thoughts on it. And Whitney's going to take the Hornet, and I'm going to take the Smart Pillin, and let's go talk about it.
Oh, yeah, brother. Oh, God. Fuck yeah.
Right?
Fuck yeah, dude. God, this is a good bike. Oh, dude, fuck you. Fuck you, Jake.
Oh, yeah, you can immediately tell when Whitney likes a bike because she starts riding differently.
Dude, I'm upset. And just like that, I'm upset. God.
Man, I'm literally, since I'm following behind you, I'm just in a cloud of 919 fumes. Oh, God, does that bike smell. Holy cow. I'm going to drop back a little bit.
Okay, so this isn't a Honda Hornet 919 simping vlog, right?
No,
Jesus
this is not a Hornet simp vlog. We're actually going to talk about when it's time to upgrade your motorcycle. And I think I've upgraded 5 times. Each time was an upgrade in a different way. Sometimes it was an engine upgrade for more power. Sometimes it was a tech upgrade. I wanted a quick shifter. I wanted some other stuff. Other times it was just because I wanted something just different. I wanted a different style of motorcycle. And luckily, motorcycles are affordable enough that I could just go grab whatever motorcycle. But I never really thought about it until now of what drove each purchase. So I'd like to hand the question off to you first, because you said you got a simple answer. When is it time for you to upgrade your motorcycle, Whitney?
When your giblets stop quivering. Like, you know, I've seen it with you, I think twice now. There is suddenly a thought, and it won't leave your head, where you're like, and that's it. It's just a sound. It's like, huh. And then every time you walk in the garage and you look at the bike, you're like, huh. I think it's time for that to go. Like, sometimes you can't explain it.
Yeah.
And it can get really nuanced and gray as to why you want to get rid of it or what's happening or what's changing. But it's a feeling. It's just like an ineffable feeling of like, this time. I remember you said you were going to be buried with your DRZ. It was going to be a Viking funeral. And I was like, dude, no, it's not. And the second you start talking like that is an indicator that it's almost on its way out.
Yeah, when I said I was going to be buried with the DRZ, that was mostly just because I was like, I have put so much blood, sweat, and tears into this stupid motorcycle that I will never let it go unless somebody's going to pay a lot of money for it. And mercifully, I did find somebody who was willing to pay what I wanted to sell it for. And I assume he's out there having a good old happy time on my DRZ.
Well, we hope so.
We hope so, anyway. But yeah, I totally get that it's a feeling, but one of the things I'd like to attempt to quantify is that feel. Like, let's expand on it. Let's pull a psychiatrist and let's dig into what that feeling is inside you. And personally, I think that there's a couple of angles. There's the analytical side, which is actually what brought me to my first Hornet. So if you'll allow me to tell a story here.
Please.
The first Hornet that I bought, and this I actually mentioned this in the Hornet vlog, so I'm going to do a truncated version of it. I bought my first Hornet after I'd been riding around on a Harley for 2 years, something like that. I had the Street 750, and then I had the Street Rod, and they were both good motorcycles. But I wanted something more. I wanted something with a little bit more zest, and I wanted something that had a bit more power too. I just wanted something different. I wanted to expand my horizons. And I found the Hornet. I actually saw, there was a guy who had one in the garage of the building I was living in at the time. And I kept looking at it and I was like, what is that motorcycle? I want that. And I actually left a note on the guy's bike because it was just covered in dust. And I was like, are you looking to sell? I'll buy it. How much? And I ended up learning a little bit more about that bike, and I was like, I don't really want one that's got clip-ons and this, that, and the other thing. I want one that's a little bit more stock. So I found one for $3 grand, saved up, bought it, never looked back, you know, because it was faster, it had more personality. I kept the Harley because I was fortunate enough to be able to, but I didn't ride the Harley as much because it just wasn't making me happy. But it was definitely I want more power, I want more sophisticated suspension, I want better handling, I want to step up, I want more. Then, famously, the next motorcycle was my VFR, and I had fun with it, but it bored me. Oh my God, did it bore me. Because it was just, it never required anything. It didn't have any real personality. It never really inspired me to go out and ride. And coming off of my 919 and getting on the VFR was probably the shortest lived motorcycle I've ever owned. Because I didn't want it anymore. It was just, I would not reach for the keys for that motorcycle.
Would you say your giblets were no longer quivering?
My giblets were no longer quivering. So I had the giblet quiver angle, and then I had the not giblet quiver angle. But for you, it seems like it's all giblet quiver all the time.
It's all giblet quiver all the time. It's all, well, I'm a woman, right? So I unearth my intuition and be like, no, I'm done. I want something else. And also, like, this weird, I'm sure a lot of people do this, right? Like, I've wanted a motocross bike for years. And I'm like, no, I'll buy a Svart PLN instead. And I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? What is wrong with me? Why do I have an R9T? That can't go off-road. Quit denying yourself the secret thing you really want. It might be more work or it might be harder to find. But it's like, it's weird because a lot of motorcycles will satisfy whatever you're missing, you know? But they can only get you for so long before you're still like pining over some dumb motocross Yamaha bike, you know?
Yeah, and that's kind of what's going on with me and the Hornet right now. Is I've got that back and I realized how much that motorcycle just it tickled my giblets so good.
Oh, dude, this bike is ridiculous. How could you ever compare it to a Z900 RS?
Right?
There's no way, there's no comparison. Fight me on it, I'll fight you.
Oh man, Whitney is irritating so many people right there.
I feel strongly about that.
So, all of this kind of heady theory talk, let's try to bring it down to brass tacks and money so that we can perhaps relay some advice to people.
Yeah, let me think of something too, like a little bit more practical. Like, I got rid of my Ducati Scrambler because it wasn't giving me the power that I wanted on the highway. And on top of that, I live in Texas and it was really, really hot. So yeah, it was cool looking. I got a good deal on it at the dealership. But then real quickly, I noticed, you know, looking back at it now, it just needed, you know, like a full system and a tune and some of those emission stuff debogged from it. But it wasn't enough to keep it. I knew that I was mostly commuting down the highway and I wasn't comfortable on that bike doing so. So that's how I knew it was time to get more of a ripper.
Yeah, and I think that's one really great way to know for sure. When the motorcycle that you're currently riding doesn't work for the kind of riding you're going to do. Like you were saying with your trail bike, Envy, your R9T does not do that.
No.
It will never do that.
God, no.
So you're getting rid of it, and you're going to buy yourself a trail bike, the kind of thing that you want to go ride off-road. And that is a perfectly logical and totally reasonable time to upgrade.
Yeah, I'm also changing as a rider, which is something that happens to people. Like, I love how bikes look. I buy bikes based on their aesthetics. I don't even think about it, don't demo them, whatever. Okay, I've ridden 45 bikes now. I'm like, okay, I don't want that. I did that. I did the whole thing. I crammed my garage full of pretty bikes, and now it's not, I'm a different person. I'm a different rider, so it's time to close that chapter and open a new one.
Yeah, and it's totally okay if you wake up one day and you look at your beginner bike that you were totally happy with yesterday, but then today you're just like, I really wish it had something else. I wish it did something else.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, is you got to find the motorcycle that fits the kind of riding that, not necessarily that you're doing now, but that you want to do in the future. Do you want to go try riding off-road? Maybe you add a second motorcycle to the stable, or you get yourself an adventure bike which can handle street and off-road riding.
I preach the gospel of the Pan America, but it doesn't make sense for me to have that right now as somebody who's got babies on the way and whatnot, because I'm not about to go do some long bomb-ass, you know, trip anytime soon. So I'm not going to buy that right now. I still love it, but right now I do a lot of city riding and highway riding, so, you know, this is not in the cards.
So a bike that's capable of tackling that is actually going to see mileage, you know?
Exactly.
And you don't need to spend $20,000 to get that bike.
Nope.
Then I think that the other time that it's really just totally okay to be like, you know what, it's upgrade time, baby, is when you get on a motorcycle. Like, you go on a group ride. You go on a group ride, you ride one of your buddy's bikes, you get on it and you're like, whoa, okay, this is different, this is really cool. And you realize that your bike is not going to do that. Whether you put a bunch of money into mods to get more power out of it or whatever, you're never going to get like an R3 to ride like an R7. You're never going to do that. And you get on one of those and you're like, oh damn, my bike is just, it's not going to do what I need it to do, even if I spend money on it. Then just go get another bike. It's way better to get that second motorcycle or replace the one that you have than dump a ton of cash trying to upgrade it.
Dude, if you can do us all a favor and leave your bike as stock as possible so that it retains its value, so that you don't waste a bunch of time and money into trying to make your R3 the best R7 you can, because now you've ruined your R3 and nobody wants it, and you could have just saved the money and put it towards an R7.
Yes, yes, oh my god, yes.
People don't understand that. Don't customize your bike. You're not adding value, you're actually degrading it.
Or if you feel the need to put a slip-on your motorcycle, keep your stock exhaust and put it back on when you go to sell it. It's fine to modify your bike. It totally is fine. Just make sure you're keeping the stock parts so that you can return it to stock, because that's where you have the real value.
Dude, several people, because I'm selling my R9T, all of them have been like, thank you for keeping it stock. Thank you.
Yeah, the closer you are to stock, the more value your motorcycle has. And that's just you know, your pro tip of the day.
That's your pro tip of the day. That's the secret little Easter egg buried inside this vlog.
So, upgrading your motorcycle, how often should you do it, Whitney?
Every 6 months. Every year? Dude, I swap all the damn time. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's the life I'm going through. I've done a lot of soul digging. You know me, I'll have an existential crisis on a new bike and be like, why am I riding this other thing? It doesn't make any sense. So it's just taken me a lot of bikes to get there.
Like, I know for a fact, if you had gotten on the MT10 that was at AF1 Racing the other day, you would have just bought it. You would have just been like, you know what? You know what? Fucking right in the arm, inject me with that cross-plane goodness, baby. More debt, mo better.
Yeah. Oh, with those big, sexy dad panniers, too. Like, I could carry so much crap.
Yeah, it's... Sometimes when you know, you know. I've basically swapped out every bike that I've owned once a year, more or less. I'm starting to do it less and less now because the bikes that I have are serving the purposes for what I bought them for. Like my KLR, unless I can make the excuse to get like a parallel twin or V-twin adventure bike, the KLR is just going to stay around, because if I don't ride it for a month, it'll just turn on because it just continues to work. It's really low maintenance. I don't care. But, you know, with street bikes, there's definitely a flavor of the week, you know?
Oh yeah, dude. Also, there's just so many good bikes out there. Like, it's tough.
There's so many good options. We are spoiled for choice right now, because not only do you have great brand new motorcycles, but you have amazing motorcycles from the last 2 decades that are just so good. And you know what? If one of them makes your giblets tingle, you better be riding that motorcycle instead of the one that you're on, because life is short.
Life is short, and you're reducing the margin of error by a significant amount from jumping from car to bike. So it might as well be a romantic relationship, because you're gonna need it when you're navigating traffic and highways and trips. You do need it to be a special bond. I think that's like a really important part of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, guys, on that romantic note, I think we're gonna call it a video. Let me know down below when you realized that it was time for you to upgrade your motorcycle, and what you upgraded from and to. I'd be interested. Or if you're one of those people who downgraded because you had a really fast motorcycle and you realized, you know what, the speed limit's 80 miles an hour here, I can't go 150. Totally reasonable. Let us know down below, and we'll catch you in the next one. Any parting thoughts, Whitney?
Keep your giblets quivering, please, for my sake, for Spite's sake. Stay in the game. I know that sometimes people can get the wrong bike, or they have a close call, and then that's kind of game over. They hang up their helmet. Stay in the game. Stay
in the game.
Yeah, like, that's what we want. We want you to have fun, and we want you to be safe, and, you know, that's all I want, is your giblets to quiver from the sight of 2 wheels. Well, rather riding a motorcycle. So there
you go. We'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.